about today is basically on the corporate liability provision or Section 17 capital A. Now, how did Section 17 capital A come about? So basically, in April 2018, the Parliament had passed major amendments to the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act. Now, one of these amendments was to add in a new section known as Section 17 capital A on corporate liability. So the whole idea of bringing corporate liability into this would be to create vicarious liability upon those sitting at top of corporations for actions that have been undertaken by the staff, or not only by the staff, because the scope of Section 17A did not only limit liability placed based on action of the staff, but also any person associated to the company. Now, what do I mean by persons associated to the company? Persons associated to the company could be anyone from directors themselves, senior management, controllers of the company, staff, agents that act on behalf of the company, subsidiaries that the company has, JV partners, and whoever that actually has certain businesses being done with the corporation. Right? So we're looking into commercial organizations. The term commercial organizations that falls under Section 17 capital A would be those incorporated under the Companies Commission of Malaysia, partnerships, limited liability partnerships, and also even if companies based in other countries that has businesses in Malaysia would be implicated under Section 17 capital A. So now, board directors, senior management will question, so how do we make sure that our staff do not commit such acts? Making sure they do not commit is one thing. What happens if they do commit such acts and we are taken to court? What's the means or what's the mode for us to defend ourselves in court later on? So basically what you can do is this. According to subsection 5 of subsection 5 of Section 17 capital A, it is stated that companies can provide a defense of adequate procedures. Now, what is this whole adequate procedures? The Minister and Prime Minister's Department was tasked to come up with a guideline or a list known as the Guidelines for Adequate Procedures, where companies could follow, basically decipher, adopt, and come up with proper controls that fits the framework of their nature of business. So, when this framework was basically launched in December 2018, with five major principles being listed in the whole adequate procedures document. What are the 5 basic principles that were stated? First, top-level commitment. What is top-level commitment? You basically now need the board directors, senior management, and those looking after different departments to actually play a bigger role when it comes to anti-bribery. They have to play a role in creating the culture, ensuring policies, procedures are set, reviewing those policies and periodically making sure they have set the tone against bribery. They themselves need to follow the law, ensure that the company has those controls, ensure that management prepares a list of things that needs to be done, and they get to review it periodically, making sure risk assessments are done and whatever not. The second one, we talk about risk assessment. Bribery risk assessment is a must. Minimum 3 years once, every organization must do a bribery risk assessment. What do I mean by bribery risk assessment? Businesses need to determine which are areas of high, medium, and low risk. Later on, use that findings to insert proper controls. Right? So bribery assessment needs to take into account where those businesses are being done, geographical locations, the type of products that are being sold, the services being done, whether it's high risk, whether the geographical location countries are high risk or prone to bribery and corruption, what kind of controls do you put in? Third one, we talk about undertaking control measures. Now, based on the findings of the bribery risk management assessment earlier, we come up with a set of controls, policies, procedures to make sure these risks are all mitigated. Now, inclusion of non-financial and financial controls. Huge emphasis needed to be put on due diligence and whistleblower hotlines or reporting mechanisms. When we say due diligence, you must know your people associated with the company, who they are, what they do, the background of the company, whether they do have a proper structure, They are against bribery as well. They do not commit anything against the law. And proper reporting mechanism or whistleblower hotline, which are accessible to internal and external parties as well. So not only internal parties will be able to report on things that take place, but also external parties need to have access to those whistleblower hotlines, so the right people can be contacted when there is or they are suspected acts of bribery. Right? Fourth one, systematic review. These risk assessments, controls, whatever not that's been put place against bribery needs to be systematically reviewed, improved in due time. Once all these are done, we also need to make sure that the last principle is fulfilled, which is training and communication. Staff needs to be trained on what kind of policies, what kind of procedures they are in the company. Maybe it's induction training through e-learning and whatever not. And all these mechanisms need to be communicated not only to internal staff but to external parties as well. Yeah? So fulfill the five principles of trust, provided by the ministerial guidelines, and you have a defense against corporate liability. Right? Thank you.